On the Good of Marriage in Modern English by Augustine of Hippo. Publisher's Introduction. Thank you for picking up a copy of On the Good of Marriage by Augustine. We have updated this work into modern English so you can understand exactly what Augustine wrote over 1,000 years ago. If you enjoy this book, please share with a friend, leave a positive review on Amazon, and see more updated works at oldbooknew.com. Chapter 1, On Marriage. 1. Since every person is part of the human race, and human nature is naturally social, valuing friendship as a great and natural good, God decided to create all people from one person. This way they would be connected not only by being the same kind, but also by family ties. The first natural bond in human society is between a man and a woman. God didn't create them separately and then bring them together as strangers. Instead, he made one from the other, symbolizing their union by creating the woman from the man's side. This shows how they are meant to walk side by side, looking in the same direction. Next comes the bond of having children, which is the only true purpose of the union between a man and a woman beyond just sexual relations. It's possible for both genders to have a friendly and true partnership, with one leading and the other following, even without sexual relations. 2. We don't need to dive deep into the question of how the first humans, blessed by God to be fruitful and multiply, would have had children if they hadn't sinned. Their bodies became mortal because of sin, and sexual reproduction involves mortal bodies. There are many different ideas about this, and if we want to figure out which one aligns with the truth of the Bible, it would take a long discussion. Would they have had children in some other way, without intercourse if they hadn't sinned? Could the Almighty Creator, who made them without parents and formed Jesus in a virgin's womb, have done it differently? Even bees can reproduce without mating. Or maybe the command to fill the earth and rule over it is symbolic, meaning they would grow in wisdom and virtue. Like the Psalm says, "You will increase my soul with virtue." Perhaps having children was only necessary after sin introduced death. Maybe their bodies weren't spiritual at first, but were meant to become spiritual through obedience, gaining immortality not through death, which came from sin, but through a transformation like the apostle mentions when he says, "Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up in the clouds to meet Christ." This suggests that the first humans' bodies were mortal, but wouldn't have died if they hadn't sinned, just like a body capable of being wounded wouldn't be wounded unless something forbidden was done. So even through sexual intercourse, they could have had children, with bodies that would grow but not age or die until the earth was filled. If God could keep the Israelites' clothes from wearing out for 40 years, surely he could keep obedient bodies in perfect condition until they were transformed from mortal to immortal, from physical to spiritual. Which of these ideas is true, or if there's another explanation, would take a long time to explore and discuss. 3. We now say that, in the way we are born and die, which we know and were created in, marriage between a man and a woman is a good thing. The Bible praises this union so much that it doesn't allow a woman to remarry if her husband is still alive, and a man can't marry another woman unless his wife has died. So when talking about the goodness of marriage, which Jesus also supported in the gospel, not only by forbidding divorce except for infidelity, but also by attending a wedding, we have good reasons to ask why it's considered good. I think it's not just because of having children, but also because of the natural companionship between different sexes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called marriage for older people, especially if they lost their children or never had any. But in a good marriage, even if the couple is old and the passion of youth has faded, the love and care between husband and wife remains strong. The better the couple is, the sooner they choose to stop having sexual relations by mutual agreement. Not because they can't, but because they choose not to. If they keep their promises and respect each other, even if their bodies are weak, their souls remain connected, and their chastity is stronger and more secure. Marriage also has the benefit of channeling youthful desires into something good, like having children, turning the flaw of lust into something positive. Additionally, the desire of the flesh is controlled and becomes more modest, balanced by the love of being parents. There is a certain seriousness in their pleasure because when husband and wife come together, they remember they are also father and mother. 4. In marriage, when spouses fulfill their marital duties to each other, Even if they sometimes do so with excessive desire, they still owe each other loyalty. The apostle gives this loyalty such importance that he refers to it as having authority, saying, "The woman does not have authority over her own body, but the man does. And likewise, the man does not have authority over his own body, but the woman does." Breaking this loyalty is called adultery, which happens when either spouse, driven by their own desires or by agreeing to someone else's desires, has sexual relations with another person outside the marriage agreement. This breaks the trust, which even in physical matters is a significant virtue of the soul. Therefore, it is clear that this trust should be valued even more than physical health, which is essential for our life. Although a small amount of straw is almost nothing compared to a lot of gold, keeping trust pure in small matters is just as important as in significant ones. However, when trust is used to commit a sin, it seems odd to call it trust. Yet if an action is done against this trust, it is even worse, unless it is abandoned to return to true and rightful trust, meaning to correct a sinful will. For example, if someone cannot rob a person alone and finds a partner to do it together and share the loot, but then keeps all the loot for themselves, the partner would feel betrayed. However, the partner should realize that they should have kept trust with society by living a good life and not stealing from someone if they understand the injustice of being betrayed in a crime. The one who is unfaithful in both situations is undoubtedly more wicked. But if the person regrets their wrongdoing and refuses to share the loot to return it to the rightful owner, even a dishonest person wouldn't call them unfaithful. Similarly, if a woman breaks her marriage vows but remains loyal to her lover, she is certainly wrong. But if she is not even loyal to her lover, she is worse. However, if she repents her sin and returns to marital fidelity, ending all adulterous ties, it would be surprising if even her lover considers her unfaithful. 5. There's often a question about whether it can be called marriage when a man and a woman who are not married to anyone else come together not to have children, but just for sexual relations. They agree that neither will be with anyone else. This might reasonably be called marriage if both decide to stay together until one of them dies and they are open to having children, even if that wasn't their main reason for being together. However, if they don't want children or actively try to prevent having them, I don't see how it can be called marriage. For example, if a man is with someone temporarily until he finds someone he considers worthy of marrying, he's essentially being unfaithful, not to the person he hopes to marry, but to the one he's currently with, because he doesn't intend to be a true partner. If the woman knows and accepts this, she's also acting unfaithfully by being with someone without the commitment of marriage.